I could see it coming that we were going to crash and burn one way or another.
What was the angriest you ever were at Clarkson during the Top Gear days? Was it the day it all come to an end?
Guess what? Text from Mr. Wilman.
The godfather of Top Gear, Andy Wilman.
I'm a bit of an orchestra conductor. I've got to make sure all the bits go together. We kind of just ploughed along with our own path, going, right, one week it's everyone falls over and catches fire. Next week it's supercars in the Alps. Top Gear that had been taken off air and died on its arse, we were supposed to make that a watchable show. None of us had ambition for this show. I had no plan, no future.
And you weren't happy?
So we're drained, we're done, I'm on antidepressants, I'm screwed. We all got our own solo project deal with Amazon. And they said to Jeremy, what would you like to do? He goes, I'm thinking about life on my farm. And if I had a quid for every Amazon executive, went, can you talk him out of that, please? And he was like, I don't blame him. He was like, I'm crapping myself that this is going to be any good. After a couple of weeks, I go, I'm sorry, no, I'm done. This is not going to work. I don't want to do it. So I quit.
Andy, I want to begin our chat today with a thing with one of these.
What is it?
Now this, don't open it, but this is a simple envelope. Something that barely anyone gets excited about. Letters in envelopes normally contain bad news. However, growing up watching Top Gear, they'd often contain a challenge that would send me and my late father into fits of laughter. And they usually came from a chap called Mr. Wilman.
How old were you when you watched Top Gear?
8 or 9.
Right, so that's when you started. 8 or 9. Do you know, we had kids, the last sort of series of the Grand Tour working in the office, who were 8 or 9 when we were talk about making you old when they're there. Going, yeah, we used to talk about that in the playground. And you're like, what?
Gen Zs, as you call them.
Are you kiddie fiddlers? Oh, no, you actually were children at school, like sort of thing. So, yes, thank you for making me feel old. Mr. Wilman was Grand Tour. Gold envelope, that's not there, was Top Gear. But I get your point. I'm not going to bugger up your envelope. I get your point that things got handed by the office, the team, the production, and that was me. Yeah.
Well, I know you'd appeared on camera for the show at various points before that occasionally, back in the late 90s. However...
don't remind me.
However, to a viewer like me, you were a man, Mr. Wilman, that was almost as elusive as the Stig. Andy, in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
Well, yeah, I'm... you won't have watched Minder, Arthur Daly's wife. You never saw her indoors. It's the same sort of deal that I am always supposed to be behind the camera and helping out the making of the show. Somebody's got to run the thing. Somebody's got to run the ship. There is a great team on either show. There's Jeremy, Richard and James up at the front. And then I guess I'm a bit of an orchestra conductor. That'll be one way of looking at it. I've got to make sure all the bits go together. So there's that job of running things. And then I've got a creative input too. And the creative input was always on both shows in the edit, which I found I was good at. So if we were a band, let's say Jeremy, Richard, James, lead vocals, guitar, drums, bass, everything else, I would have been the producer in the studio, not a producer on TV. I'd be the guy in the studio. I'd take all their rushes, whatever they shoot, and then I could make it into the finished film, that's got to fit the time and everything. So like a producer takes, all the backing vocals, all the guitars, all everything, and actually mixes it, engineers it into a song. That's kind of what I would do creatively. The rest of the time was running the office, making sure it worked and ran.
Which is a leader's role. And the reason I say that is because I go on to this point before getting to the question, which is I've been fortunate enough to sit both Ben Collins and Richard Porter in that seat opposite me, who have described you as their boss, which you were.
I'm third.
And
okay.
I've also had Izzy Hammond in that seat opposite, who recalls the times that you would have to call her and her mother when Richard had spun off a cliff over the years.
Yeah.
And we know, of
Never
course,
got easier.
that Jeremy would refer to you on camera as Mr. Wilman, implying
Wilman.
as the big boss.
Yeah.
However, when I read the first couple of pages of your book, I've actually circled and underlined a few different things that you've said in there. One was describing yourself as having modest ambition when you started Top Gear, and that there was no grand battle plan, that you weren't skilled enough, and that in your 20s, you're actually a glass half full because insecurity kept knocking it over. Now, that doesn't sound like the person that I would imagine to become a leader. Does it to you?
Well, that's true. And I think you become a leader by default. It's like somebody's got to do the leading. And I found I was good at it. I could keep an office running. I think in there I refer to myself as I copied David Brent, that it's like, I like the way that David Brent, and we know he's a twat in the office, but I like the way he tried to make the office a bit theatrical. Sort of, it's the place where you have to spend all your working day, all the best parts of your day, to try and make it something. I found I could do that. I could make the place good, and I could protect an office from BBC or Amazon or whoever. As for the insecurity, yes, full of it. But then again, I've not met anyone in television who isn't good, who's not full of insecurity, because you're always looking over your shoulder about, is it all going to be over? Is this what you've done? Is it good enough? Can it ever be good enough? And so on and so on. So insecurity rams everything through, fear of failure rather than desire for success. Couple that with the point about modest ambition. None of us had ambition for those shows to become this. It genuinely was, we were on wages and we wanted to make, in 2002, Top Gear that had been taken off air and died on its arse. We were supposed to make that a watchable show again. That was it. So there's a nice thing then starts to happen, because we don't have that ambition to make this blockbuster Guinness Book of Records show that's watched by kids and everybody else. When it starts to happen, it happens by accident. There are so many, I mean, that thread, you probably sort of see it in the book, I hope you do, that things are accidents. Specials are accidents. The Stig is born out of panic, and so on and so on.
Magic.
Those things are like, we don't plan them, so when they happen, they're all the better for it. And I think it makes you last longer. And I think the viewers like it because they see it, they live it. We were a show that got under people's skin. I'm proud enough to be able to say that. We weren't just something amazing you watch and then walk away from. People were like, it's my Top Gear, but it belongs to me. See, that vibe. Did you feel that with your dad?
Yeah.
100%.
But what I get fascinated about people is when you rise to the top, and when you create something that you weren't expecting to, and then it goes on for a period of years, all you get is praise, 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 praise. A lot of the time from the outside world. Things go wrong, and we'll get to that in this journey. But my point is, you come in the van, Mr. Wilman, you're a legend. You're a legend at this point with everything that you've grown. But if I took the guy that thought like that in his 20s and sat him opposite me right now and explained everything that you'd done, stories of that book, what would he react like? What would he say? Like, bloody hell,
he'd
did
be
he
staggered,
actually?
absolutely staggered, because the guy in his 20s thought he was going to be like a builder or didn't know what he was going to be. I had no plan, no future.
And you weren't happy?
Not really, no. Not really. I mean, me and Jeremy were mates. Like everyone in their 20s, you can put off the big shit, life is coming down the road, and I've got to make some. You can put that off by going, right, we'll go back to the pub and I'll get some money and then I can spend that and that'll get me through the weekend. You got a kind of short-termism.
Do you think that's different now, though, in the people that you see come into the office kind of under pressure to get that done sooner?
I just think it's harder to work in TV. So if that's what you're meaning, like what people in their 20s coming in.
I think people saying that by the time that you were in that position, a lot of people, I'd say in my age, in their 20s now, feel like they have to have it all figured out by 26 to 28, rather than still trying to figure out what's going on.
So why do you think that? Why do you think you've got to have it figured out?
I just think because
insecurity of the future.
You talk about TV being that big influential factor that you went into TV. Yeah. That was your path and everything you knew, and therefore was TV.
Well, wasn't a path, but ended up, yeah.
But now, for us, it's dominated by social media as well as TV, but TV can be YouTube, it can be a 20-minute long clip on TikTok, it can be something else. And there's other influence in there, like pressure and seeing how well everyone are doing in a comment section that's very visible, that I think makes people that are kind of sub 30 now feel like they have to have it a bit more put together and figured out.
Because the comment section is stronger, more vociferous.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never got that. We used to get letters.
I remember reading them out. Because generally you'd have sections on the original early Top Gear where you'd read out the letters from the viewer. Were they all real?
Yeah, the letters were real, yeah. I mean, Mr. Needham, we made him up. Or if we wanted to introduce film, if we had a stupid premise for a film, like, I think, when we were driving cars behind a 747 to see which one, with its engines on full tilt, to see which car would blow over the furthest. It was good to start with. We've had a letter from a reader saying, what's the best car for driving? But, we hadn't had that letter, obviously. That was just to try and make our show a bit like one of those consumer shows on the BBC, like Watchdog or something like that. So that was a piss take there. But comments, yes, it is a very interesting point you make, because we were isolated from them. You had viewing figures, you had complaints, but you never really got anybody until the internet really sort of got going in the forum groups. You never got people really analysing what we did.
See, on my
didn't really bother with it
first
when
ever
they did.
Podcasts that I went out and recorded, say my first 20, my first 30 in year one, I was absolutely smashed in the podcast. You're interrupting your guest all the time. Stop looking over to the left, look them in the eye. Yeah. And I would see them. And I'm very fortunate that I think I've got a pretty good outlook to actually look at them and go, we've got a fucking point, to be honest with you. I should probably stop doing that and taking it on board. Or ignore the ones that you don't want to, you feel secure enough not to. But I feel like by facing up to a lot of those negative comments, it's got me along the ground quicker. But do you think in the team that you worked with, and especially the three, do you think if they had a comment section that it would have got under their skin a little bit more because of those insecurities at the start?
Depending on what day it was. Honestly, if you'd have seen us in action, we could go, literally, we could blow hot and cold on comments. And that's I think, because we all live in insecurity. So one day we could go, there's a letterist saying we're doing too much cocking about. We're not doing like proper car stuff. We're deserting the car fans. I think they're right. We need to do some car stuff, like get proper cars, find a nice road in the Alps and do that.
The perfect road trip.
And then you watch the trip and go, you watch the film and go, not many explosions in that. Oh shit, we need some more cocking about. You just bounce backwards and forwards. But overarchingly, it didn't drive us. Like I say, it's something that popped in, got in our brains for half an hour, and then left. And then in the main, we carried on with our rota of trying to balance cocking about with a proper car show and so on and so on. We knew we could keep that going. What else? The figures were there. The viewing figures were there. So you like, overarchingly, when they start getting big and it's a car show, you can go mad second guessing which way you should take your show. Like if you're getting suddenly, we wanted 3 and now suddenly we're getting 6 million. If you start to try and analyze who's happy within that and who wants what within that, you would go mental. So we kind of just plowed along with our own path, going, right, one week it's everyone falls over and catches fire. Next week it's supercars in the Alps. And we just try and be, and that's quite what can I say? It's quite binary what we did in the end. That was not rocket science what we got up to.
You mentioned there, though, cocking about, but a bit of like cracking on with it. Was that you at school growing up with Jeremy? Because I've heard Jeremy talk before about Adrian Newey. And
yeah, he'd left just before I got there
about how Adrian would have been the perfect kid doing absolutely everything right in school, and you and Jeremy maybe weren't.
Arsing around. So. Yeah, but which one is like the multi-millionaire most successful? You know, it's like those like nerds in Silicon Valley that we all go, oh, you twat, I would have like bullied you at school. And he's got the super yacht.
Bezos.
You know, they've got they're all
weirdly
the super yacht. They've got the private jet, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And the Stones are playing at their private party. And they were the ones who were like, with circuit boards.
But that's really interesting just to ask you that, because you obviously spend so much time around people that enrich your brain. Creatives, people that you can sit down with and let your brain breathe, and you can go out and laugh and fun, and you're consumed in a bubble of comfort. And what you're talking about there is looking up, even at your level, which tens of thousands of people listening to this today will be thinking, oh my God, if I could get to producing one of the greatest motoring shows in history, bringing that team together, earning a lot of money in the process, and then carrying it on with the Grand Tour, and then also doing things like Clarkson's Farm, etc., and still keeping that train going. They would see that as so high up the tower of success. But do you still feel like even when you get to this position, you guys are all still looking, oh yeah, but we could have been if we'd have just got ourselves sorted even further up?
Further up.
Does it ever stop?
No, we're absolutely, our success surprised us and continued to. And we would get used to something like big viewing figures. You'd get used to the Guinness Book of Records thing. You'd process it, you know. But we always thought the thing that, again, I cover it in there, the thing that is like the nagging at the back of your mind is finishing on your own terms. You start to look to the end, which in TV is like, I don't know any other business where that is a thing, where you go, maybe racing drivers, you know, do you take another year's contract and you know, fall down the teams and you're not doing as well, but you can't, I like the life, I'm going to hang on? Or do you walk away like, bless him, Schumacher did after Ferrari, you know? So we had, I'm going to keep my thread here, we processed the success. The thing that kept us honest was maintaining it and then ending it at the right time, ending it in a time of our choosing. Once you start doing that, I don't think you start going, right, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do next? I think to go, what we're going to do next, we would have to have become TV magnets, not like the attract metal, but MAGNATES. Those people like Simon Cowell or Mark Burnett who think up formats that are sellable, and you sit back and the money comes in while you sleep. You know, Mark Burnett makes The Apprentice and Survivors and stuff, Survivor and things like that, not Traitors. Apprentice, Survivor, you got Simon with all his stuff. They plan that. They plan a format that can be then the same in Germany, the same in France, Italy, America, England, everywhere. And we always just made our own show. So once you do that, once you realize that you are the components, you're like, you stay, instead of becoming the Savoy, you stay what they call a boutique hotel. Really nice, but you limit your growth. You cannot grow any more than if it doesn't involve us.
I bet if you're listening to this podcast today, you've heard of a remortgage, but there's a big chance you haven't heard of a refinance when it comes to a car. See, many people, for whatever reason, believe when they take out a finance agreement, they are locked into it until the very end of that agreement, and that just simply isn't true. You can refinance a car at any point in its agreement. So if you've bought a new or used vehicle from a dealership on finance above £25,000, you could refinance that with Lillian Stanley and save yourself tens, hundreds, or even thousands of pounds across the course of your agreement. And I've seen this in action because Toby, the first time, who's my editor, he was editing one of these Lillian Stanley integrations. He actually realised in real time that he could phone up. He ended up saving 3% on his agreement over the remaining 3 years. To check this out, it is completely free, and you can do so via the link in the description or as the pinned comment of this video. Lillian Stanley's team are genuine people that genuinely will help you save some money on your car finance agreement. So make sure you go and check them out, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you to Lillian Stanley for sponsoring this video. Do you think that's a case in point of saying that even though Top Gear as a brand was franchised off to Australia and America, can I use that word?
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily have the same recipe and spice and magic of the UK version. Is that because it wasn't as repeatable, because it was the people in the process coming up with the creative?
Yeah, I mean, we never had if you got something like Strictly or X Factor or what have you, the format is so strong that you can just put a new lead panel in, put your contestants in. Contestants are always the lifeblood of those things, and you're away. But there was no real format. 3 blokes doing car films, and who knows what they'll be each week. You've got a studio, you read out the news, you got a guest coming on. We found when we made the Grand Tour, legally, you can do all that over again. So with a few conditions. So you don't have
everything the opposite.
You don't have a format. Oh God, the legal shit, honestly. But you don't really have a format. You just have the 3 guys. And because, come back to the point, we're not planning this, when we get big, there's no way of formatting it. Now the BBC, of reproducing it. Now the BBC tried to, and they got good presenters in Australia, got good presenters in America. But because the show was so much, it wasn't The Apprentice, it was Jeremy, Richard and James. It said Top Gear, but it was Jeremy, Richard and James is what people were tuning in for. Those other poor souls in those other shows, Australia and America, they're always getting compared to those 3.
And the ones that followed Jeremy, Richard and James.
Yeah. And where I felt sorry for those guys, they were really good. America, Australia in particular, really good. And also, we don't have a monopoly on cocking about or self-deprecation or piss-taking. That is quite a male thing that all males do. You know, they're cornerstones of a lot of male wit, piss-taking, self-deprecation. We did not have a monopoly on that. But because we did it in this environment, those other guys looked like they were copying us, and they kind of really weren't, and we always felt sorry for them. But we couldn't help the fact that we got there first, and, they were good at it.
So you got there first. Tell me where it started, because what we haven't covered at all is any heading in the right direction from the teens. We've been in 20s, and at that point, it sounds like there was points that you were lost, didn't know this was going to happen, obviously.
Yeah.
I know you joined the BBC as a journalist on Top Gear at the beginning.
I was Top Gear magazine.
But what had made you, even though you and Jeremy were friends growing up, what was the thing that without growing up in your earliest years, you wouldn't have been at Top Gear magazine? Because you're not that into cars, am I right?
It's Jeremy. It was Jeremy because I'd tried and failed. Act in college, absolute fucking disaster. And then the high point was doing Shakespeare in schools in North London, with 2 other people. And it's a sort of Friday afternoon. Can you imagine how many kids give a shit about a 2-hour Shakespeare thing on a Friday afternoon that the teacher thinks is valuable? So that was drastic. And then I went back to university, but late. I was 25 when I went back to university. So I come out when I'm 28. I've got my degree. I've got my brain working again. But I still haven't got a plan. And I try and go to the Foreign Office because I've done Russian studies. They'll be needing me at the Foreign Office. I fail the intelligence test that gets you an interview. I don't even get an interview because I'm not bright like that. You know, there's like 3 men have got to cross a river with a bucket of water.
Seen that before.
All that shit is like that sort of stuff. And you can always get them right, but there's a time limit and you've got to get more than 50% of the questions done.
Yeah.
I didn't, so I don't get through to anything. So I'm really kind of quite despairing at that point, late end of the 20s. And Jeremy has got a different kind of, he is insecure too, but he's got a different kind of confidence in that if he believes a certain thing he can do, he will go at it. And he'd set up his motoring press agency with his mate Jonathan Gill, and they'd got that going and they'd set it up themselves. And he just came around one afternoon. He was like, "You've got to try journalism." And I was like, "I can't do journalism." Glass even emptier, you know. I've got, you know, thousands of people apply. I can't get on. And where he's the very Jeremy is, he goes, "No, just start writing something. Just write. Everyone wants ideas." He kind of flips the logic. Forget college. Everyone wants ideas. That's your currency. And he did get me a sort of in with Auto Express to the editor to sort of, he said, "Write a story and you think of one, you write it. I'll get Howard to have a look at it at Auto Express." So that was the thing he did.
He wanted you to succeed with him, it sounds like, because
but we didn't have plans to work together. He was just being a mate. There was no plans to make TV together.
So then how did that come about?
So he's a motoring journalist and he's making his name on Performance Car magazine and he's doing his reviews for local papers with this agency. So he's got his business, but he's writing in Performance Car, which was, I don't think it goes anymore now, was like where he was getting a name because he was writing, he was bringing cars to life in his own way. He was funny and he was just, it was standing out as a writer's,
describing a 458 exhaust as sounding like a burning bear.
Was that one of the things?
Yeah, for me it was because I'm a big Ferrari fan. So that's a line I remember, but I'm saying stuff like that.
Yeah, and then like when I think, I don't know, John Major got back in or whatever, he would like, "Right, I'm not working today, I'm just having a glass of champagne," and then just start talking about the Conservative victory, you know. But then that's in a car column, and they're like, "What the fuck? What you writing?" You know. But it made a mark, and then he was drunk at a car launch one night, and he went over to the Top Gear team, and he was like, he liked Top Gear, but that was all there was that you could watch if you like cars. That was all there was. And he went over pissed and told them that their show needed a kick up the arse, that it was boring, that it was all consumer reviews. And he got lucky because they gave him an audition rather than saying, "Can you fuck off and leave us alone?" And then he got the job. And then he set about what he was going to do, which was to journalistically inject the vim and vigor that he thought the show was missing. He then got to work on it, you know. So he's on the rise at Top Gear in Pebble Mill in the 90s. I've got my foot in the door with print, motoring journalism. I don't know much about cars. I'm not crazy about cars. I'm not like a great driver. But because that was how I got my foot in the door with Auto Express.
What were you really good at?
Stories. I liked stories. I saw things a funny way. I liked stories. Things interested me. I had an imagination.
Would you watch a TV show even then, or a thing on telly, and think, "Oh, cut that there. That was too long. That was too much fucking waffle.
No,
there should have been an explosion." Did you ever analyse it?
No, didn't analyse anything. But because I wasn't interested in cars per se, or engines, or what have you, I thought, right, I must find my niche to make sort of people-y car culture type features. I would start writing. So I would go out at Top Gear magazine. I'd go out on safari to LA and I'd meet Bud Eakins, who was Steve McQueen's buddy and stunt driver and stuff like that. He'd tell me stories. I'd go and find those guys who were, because this is in the 90s, so they're just coming on board, you know, the huge stretch limos were becoming a thing and nobody had really seen them. I go to Dubai, I find that sheikh with the pickup truck that's got bedrooms in it.
There's some mental stuff in the world, isn't there?
So I'm doing that because I'm like, right, I've got my niche here with motoring culture. And then Jezza gets his first solo gig at the BBC, which is Clarkson's Motorworld, which, lo and behold, is about car culture around the world. So when the BBC go, right, who do you want to work on it with you? He goes, it's got to be Andy, because I'm already doing that kind of thing. He knows it can't be engines. It can't be like Top Gear. It can't be engines. He's like, he knows I will find some stuff that gives it
substance.
What he would call, there's the spine of your story, and then the Christmas baubles that go either side. He knows I'll find the baubles.
When did you realise that the lights on the tree were going to turn on, though, and that it actually all came together?
Christmas analogies.
Was there like a moment? Was there an episode or a series or something that you all looked at each other and went, do you know what?
What are you talking about these? Top Gear or?
Yeah, those early days. A moment where you thought, oh shit, like all this actually like works for the first time.
Well, Jeremy and I had success with these things we were doing through the 90s. You know, they were getting big figures. But then TV was getting big figures. The one that blew our brains out was we made one of those Motorworlds about Iceland, and it got 7 million viewers on BBC Two. I'm like, what? And part of it was, and we'd lucked into it, that it was a travelogue that people weren't going to Iceland. They weren't going to Vietnam. They weren't going to Cuba. Now it's on every TV chef or every TV whatever is going to those places.
Road trips.
But we were quick. We were ahead of the game there. So the places looked amazing. Because if you watch one of those shows today, Jesus Christ, is it slow? It is ponderous. You know, Jeremy's got really formal pieces to camera. We take forever with the sort of sequences and the things. It's really slow compared to what we like now, or compared to what, you know, The Farm is at a gentle pace, but it's not slow like sort of Motorworlds were. Anyway, I'm digressing. They were a hit, and the figures surprised us, and it was teaching Jeremy how to be a presenter. But there was still no moment where we're going like, "Well, hey, we are the gods of telly," because we did not think that. We were like, "What do we get another job?"
I've had obviously different people that have got different journeys in TV that sat opposite me in here, and I'm also thinking of maybe Mike Brewer as being an example.
Yeah,
Wheeler Dealers. Not everybody has access to those viewing figures, because there's always sometimes a battle between the broadcaster and the actual thing that's going on itself. So did you always have like the data in front of you? Did you know you'd always done that 7 million views and then celebrate off the back of it?
Yeah, the BBC, those days were BARB or whatever. It's not like Amazon now, who never give you any figures.
Do they not?
No. The BBC, you've always got your figures. You got your overnight the next day, you know, and then at the end of the week, you get the consolidated figure, which would be everybody who's videoed it, which, you know, got the VHS in and all that. You get those figures on top. So you always got another million or something like that.
See, when you say that, though, about Amazon, that is going to blow so many people's minds, because if you've got the access to have a show that's on the front cover of when you open up that app on a TV or phone or tablet, and it's there with you and the boys, and it's written, and you've gone to all that trouble and driven across all those deserts in the heat with all those cameras and people and microphones and breakages and smoke, yet you don't have access to those numbers. I think that kind of blows some people's minds.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword, because we were junkies for, and if you've been in terrestrial TV, you are, for the overnight, because that's when the most people watch something, because you've got your terrestrial schedule. So Sunday night, as the Top Gear goes out, when we were at our peak, you'd get 7.5 million. Monday morning, you'd find out you got that. You go, fuck me. Yes, that's a good number. And then you get another million with the consolidated. So you're up to 9 million. And that's your number. So you're waiting for two figures and you get them both within 7 days. Whereas with one of these things, as we all know, with anything on the streamers, they just rack them up over time. the numbers become millions and millions, but they just go on forever. But there's never a celebratory moment. Like, how many people watched Adolescence on Netflix? 60 odd million, something like that. It's a massive number, but it would have taken weeks for that to become the thing.
It wasn't overnight.
No, it's not overnight, because word of mouth then does the job. So there's never a big moment to celebrate. And if I ran Amazon or Netflix, I wouldn't give the presenters the numbers either.
Why?
Because you won't like the fact that the day your show drops, it's a small number compared to what you got in terrestrial. Because it's people just choosing to watch it when they like. So you'll be disappointed because you'll go, oh shit, nobody likes us. Because you'll sort of forget that it's going to take time for the numbers to grow. But if we did get a big number, we'd go and shout about it because you just can't help yourself, and they would be pissed off.
YouTubers like myself that use that as their predominant platform to upload. There's a thing, my phone's on airplane mode, but there's a thing within the app I really want to show you because I don't know if you'd have seen it before. And although it's not loading, but it's
really good.
It's called the ranking by views chart. So I've just clicked on one of my recent podcasts, and it's a 3 out of 10. And that gives me at any moment the amount of views it did compared to the last 10.
This is like visiting your dad in an old people's home, isn't it? Showing me this.
This is showing the amount of views that episode did compared to the last 10 in the same time period. And the reason I've showed you is because
Matt Watson gets the biggest number.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it trickles down. But that can change around. That something can go from an 8 out of 10 to a 2 out of 10 in seconds. But the reason I show it is to give context. Because a creator like myself, that graph haunts their life. It does for Matt Watson. It's the most used app on his phone, is the YouTube Studio app. And that graph can just like either make you have a really good day or a really bad day.
Yeah.
And the reason I've done that, the reason we've spoke about this, because I want to get into these two other characters here. Because I think when we talk about how you and Jeremy would feel about those numbers, you've given us some insight. But talk to me about how Richard and James would feel about, oh boys, we did 9 million consolidated views this morning. What would their reactions be compared to you and Jeremy?
Right, well, this one, Richard Hammond, is a TV animal. Now, what do I mean by that? He's absolutely knows that when the cameras go on, he's got a role to play, and he understands the whole world of TV, and he would get excited by those numbers because he's a TV animal, because TV means everything to him.
That's why he's done all kinds of shows, like stood on ships in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
And Izzy, when she came on, said one day she came home, you're like this, water on the back, and the entire swimming pool was full of custard. Because he was doing something
Brainiac
on a science program.
Yeah. And it's like, Jeremy's a TV animal too, but he's got his journalism as an outlet as well. So he can go, I'm a writer and a broadcaster. Rich is a TV animal. James, journalist and TV as well. James would be, I think he'd probably hide his pride a bit. But is that a surprise from the guy you watch? Would that surprise you?
Not at all. But I think
he'd be chuffed, because everyone's chuffed by.
Most people can only see what they see of the guys on TV in that show, or the stuff they see around it, as in when a television network or a news channel comes and knocks on their front door and he opens the cup of tea and says, what would you like to talk about? Most people's understanding of those personalities are only from what they see. So how close are the guys to what you see on TV versus what you get down the pub?
Really close.
There's just even more down the pub that couldn't make the cut.
It's more down the pub that couldn't make the cut. The conversations are, they are what you saw on the TV. And I think they couldn't have lasted as long as they did with that, with the viewers spot when it's like a TV creation, when a friendship is a TV creation, or a character is a TV coat that's been put on. Your viewers spot that shit. So they came along as what they are. And, is Jeremy an opinionated bombast? Yes, on TV more than
most,
because and there you see him as a columnist making the most black and white type columns about, as in there's no shades of grey in his writing. But he took that decision years ago.
Not to give a shit.
No, it's not to give a shit. He does give a shit, but he took that decision years ago. It's the equivalent of people giving a restaurant or a film 1 star or 5 stars. You read the 1-star review, you read the 5-star review. If somebody's got 3 stars, you just don't read it. And I think he tries to make his columns the same way. He doesn't give you a 3-star column which says, however, on the other hand, to be fair, things like that. He doesn't do that.
It's either this or that.
It's either this or that, because he knows that's what people kind of want to read. Now, what makes me laugh is on the farm show, people are going, oh, that's the side of Jeremy I've never saw. Oh, Jeremy's like, he's much gentler, but he always was. He always absolutely was. But there was no room to show it in Top Gear and the Grand Tour because they're in hyper colours. They're cartoons to a degree, Top Gear and the Grand Tour. It's not a real world, the way we live. They sort of...
Are you comparing that to the outside world or comparing the time you're in it to the time you're not? Because is it your world?
Yeah,
is that your world 24/7?
It was our world, yeah. But I think I'm saying it at its most basic. Like a man walks over to a Ferrari that's full of petrol with the keys in, and it's on a runway. That's like that's nothing's real about that.
Did that ever rub off for you or the guys?
No.
Did they still get excited about that in season whatever of the Grand Tour?
Yes, they would. And more importantly, then at Fiat bring out a Fiat 500 twin cylinder. With sod all horsepower, but the engine's tiny, or that Fiesta, 1 litre Fiesta.
I remember the trip to Chernobyl in 1 litres.
Yeah, they are as excited about the 1 litres as they are about Ferraris, because that's a clever little car. There's something, I think we're excited because there's something to say as well. It's a 2-way street. Like Jeremy's like, when am I going to test that Skoda Roomster? Because it's different, So it doesn't have to be a Ferrari or anything. They get excited by a new car coming along that has got something to offer. But what you were saying, are they like they are? Yeah, Richard is. There's an element of Norman wisdom about him. The kids loved him the most. And he was always the funniest. He'd say they were going to do one of their 3-car introductions. I bought this at the start of a film. And Jeremy would be like, thinking about what he was going to say, and he'd got his points worked out because he's a columnist. He plans it, scrubs it through, writes it again. He's quick on the hoof, but something like that, he'll work it through. James, same. Hammond is on his phone, vaping, talking to Mindy, and you're like, fucking hell, we're filming in a minute, And then he'd go, right, and then just blitz it with the kind of one-liners that he would come out, because he just assesses. His brain is so fast, and he'd assess the situation. He'd look at the weaknesses in that car and all so on and so on, and then just bang, out it comes. Guys, if you're enjoying this episode, I wish you were here, but you're not. I am. Just hit the like button, YouTube, and subscribe to his channel, because it's a great place to be, and it's a smart podcast.
See, when you've got big personalities like that, and then you apply that with millions of views that come in over a period of years, and you've still got to go outside the world you're talking about into the outside world, the world that you said wasn't real compared to the one you were in.
Okay. All right. We're in a dimension, the Matrix.
The guys end up with a big level of fame between every single one.
Extraordinary fame.
And I had a moment where I was at a car show, start of the year, Petrohedonism Underground in London, and Hammond came along, and I'd consider a couple of my YouTube friends to be very well known, millions of subscribers. Yeah. I mean, even we in the van get beeps going down the motorway most times we go, etc. And then Hammond walked through down the centre of this car park, and a wave of people Or just
wanting a picture.
Robots following just following the way, following the people. And it's only now I'm in it a bit more that I have
you will get attention.
Tiny understanding of what that's like. It's not what you think it's like if you've never been in it a little bit. And there's one more story here just to add context, which is something that meant the world to me when I was younger. Was my dad came home from Heathrow Airport and he had a rag. I actually tried to find it for this episode, like a handkerchief, and on it was Jeremy and Richard's signatures because he'd bumped into them the Virgin Lounge and they were going
still in the
somewhere.
days of autographs. Yeah.
And years later I said, "Oh Dad, when you got me that," because that meant so much. It was my favourite programme growing up. It meant so much to me. I said, "So what were they like?" Richard was lovely. The other one was a tosser. And
he'd had enough of it by then.
My dad had convinced Jeremy to do the signature, or Richard had convinced Jeremy to do the signature. If Dad gave £100 to Haiti earthquake or something like that happened at that time. But would that be something that you, as Mr. Wilman, would have to keep everybody under control, everybody okay, everybody good to film? Would you ever have to kind of console them for that level of fame, is what I'm getting at?
No, because you couldn't control it. And there was we spotted it when they started to get big. I've seen the dynamics of fame, like with the guests we've had down there at the studio, and it's the same pattern. You can have nominally bigger names than those guys.
Tom Cruise.
And Tom Cruise has got to walk through the studio audience to get to the stage like every other guest. And people go, they don't go near him. And I think if Tom Cruise walked down the street, I saw Charlie Watts walking down the King's Road once, and people are looking like that's a Rolling Stone, but they don't go near them. There's something about a kind of iconic status. These three, because of the way the show is, that they're going, right, we're in the pub tomorrow, and and I've driven a £400 car into a river. The viewers think they are your,
mates.
They belong to you, they're your mates and everything else. So they're totally accessible. So the next step is they go, and therefore, because you're my mate, I can mob you. And I know Jeremy would get pissed off. He's standing at the airport checking in, and a bloke would come over and just go like that with the phone, not even ask him.
They're entitled to.
Yeah, not even ask him, and go, right, picture. And Jeremy's go, excuse me, sorry, what? And the guy's going, thanks, mate, and then off. So he's bombed a selfie for himself with Jeremy, but never asked. And that was incessant, absolutely incessant for them.
Would it drive them crazy ever to the level where they're like, fuck this?
No, I don't think there was any flip out or anything. Jeremy said now he's turned 65, he's I've retired from selfies. He's found a way.
Retail facing sites.
He's really good at it now. He's gone, no, because he can say it. Because before you'd have to go, no, sorry, I'm not doing one. And people think, oh, you prick. But now he goes, sorry, I'm 65, I've retired from selfies. And people go, okay, I accept the logic. He's like, I'm just not doing it anymore and I've retired from it. So they're getting an interaction with him and a bit of logic. And the other thing he does, I saw this at the Grand Prix this year with him and Caleb. The sort of fan interest of those guys was back to early Top Gear days again. The kind of the way people are rushing around, mechanics coming away from the teams, with the camera phones and all that. And they're walking down the pit lane like that. And people are running over and there's families and kids and stuff like that. So Jeremy's got this sort of tactic now where they go, come and get a picture. And he goes, I'm walking down there. You can take your picture, but I'm not stopping. I'm not going to have a selfie with you, but if you want to take a picture, I'm walking. So they get their picture.
I'm so glad you included this word on the front cover of the book, because
could have been penguin, but
there's something where you're actually saying here that you think penguin would have wished that Jeremy would have written the book.
Jesus Christ,
not you, but I think that you have
that with Jeremy Clarkson.
But we see so much of those guys in the lens and think we get to know them, which is why I was so excited to have this chat, because it's not often you get to hear of someone that was so close to them that's able to kind of drop in and out of all three.
Yeah.
That is quite a unique perspective to have. You probably know them better than most.
Yes, and that was 22 years.
What was the angriest you ever were at Clarkson during the Top Gear days? Was it the day it all come to an end?
No, wasn't angry then. Wasn't angry at all.
Sad?
I've just come off the microphone. We were all shell-shocked and sad, but...
Richard Porter echoed that when I had him in the van.
Richard was angrier than I was.
He was mad at Jeremy, furious.
Yeah, he kicked off in his book and said it. And when I wrote mine, I was like, well, I wasn't that angry. I was actually... I could see it coming that we were going to crash and burn one way or another because it was so manic. The pressure was so crazy, be it the need to maintain the quality and the film, the ambition of the films is going up, but you still got the same time in which to shoot them. We're all knackered. We're exhausted. We cannot delegate for shit. He can't, I can't. So, and people would go, right, we'll get more editors in. And then you just watch the film to get edited and you walk in. And I'm like, I can't do that. So if the film gets bigger and more ambitious, I just stay till smaller hours in the morning. So we're drained, we're done. I'm on antidepressants, I'm screwed. And the whole show it's boiling up to collapse at some point.
You can feel it.
Yeah, one way or another it's coming. So when it happened, I was like, not really surprised, so sad, but not angry. And then why was I not angry with Jeremy? Because he shoulders more than anybody else. In terms of the work and the responsibility, we don't have to go out there and do what he does. And there's very few presenters who write as much or are as creative as he is behind the scenes, because it's a double workload. And so I didn't agree with Porter, but I could see why I was pissed off. I didn't agree with it. But then, you know, and then when we got Grand Tour going, I gave Porter a ring. I was like, are you going to come and work with us? And he's like, oh, fuck, I didn't expect this call. Because he thought he'd like burn his bridges.
But did you expect to be making that call?
What? In what way?
In the moment that you talk about those emotions of feeling when Top Gear ended, would you have expected a short while later to be making that call to Richard?
What, you mean that we would be back on our feet?
Yeah.
Do you know, it didn't take long for me to think,
Amazon.
No, not Amazon. We didn't have that.
I've seen Jeff's boat.
No, we didn't have that plan. But it didn't take me long to think, there is no way it can end here.
Not like this.
No, because I knew we had too much still to give. What we needed was a break. We needed, obviously, start again. You know, the ruins were the ruins. The wreckage was the wreckage. But I knew we weren't finished because we were still good.
Did the BBC expect you to start again? Because when you talk about all the legal challenges...
They wanted me to stay, and then they tried to make Richard and James stay. They made a campaign to break the four of us up.
For safety.
Yeah, I mean, it was win-win because I was like... So Jeremy gets fired. Then BBC Two controller comes to see me and goes, right, we've got to get a new Top Gear going. And I'm looking at her thinking, are you fucking mental? I'm not saying it, but I'm like, number one, can I grieve? Number two, you don't know what you've got rid of. And you think because you own the brand, I'm not being horrible in my thoughts, but I'm like, you just don't understand what you've lost. You just don't get it. And she has to get the Top Gear going again on BBC Two because she's running the channel. So she's hoping, I think, that I'd go, right, okay, well, let's rebuild and we'll have a new plan. And I was like, after a couple of weeks, I go, sorry, no, I'm done. It's not going to work. I don't want to do it. So I quit.
Did any, because you'd have met all sorts of people in your time at the BBC, did any of the presenters that went on to attempt to fill the boots in Top Gear, even though the Grand Tour was going on, so everyone was like, well, we'll just follow the chaps over there. But did any of those guys ever reach out and consult with you for any advice, even though you were doing the Grand Tour?
Oh, well, the ones who stayed at Top Gear. No, they didn't reach out for advice.
Never got a
we
call
all stayed
from Chris
friends.
Evans or anything like that?
Never got a call from Chris Evans. But I think Chris wouldn't do that anyway. Chris is like, right, Chris would, I mean, we got on well with Chris, like pre the whole bust up. We would go out drinking with Chris, that sort of stuff. He loved our show. He was really good to us on his breakfast show on Radio 2. He always plugged Top Gear. So he loved what we did. But once he's taken over Top Gear, he's too much of a professional to go, right, I'm going to ask the old guard what to do here. He knows that he's expected to make his own version of it. Then the team in the office, they're not going to reach out because I think they'd find that weird. I used to be their boss, and then they're ringing me to go, what should I do about this? So they're going to find that weird to do that. I think that's just sort of manners, I guess, or etiquette. Plus also they want to give it a shot and do it themselves. They don't want me to be helping. They want to prove that they can do it. And then we were all just too busy. I mean, that's a simple thing. We had a year from signing with Amazon to get a show, 12 shows made and on air. And this was the pisser, legally safe, and yet be as close to Top Gear as possible. Right. I mean, that is, in a year, we were like, what the fuck have we done as soon as we signed the agreement?
I wish you'd filmed just one and release it years in advance.
What?
Just one conversation in a pub talking about how you're going to make it different. Because Porter described to me one of those conversations.
Oh, there's tons in here.
And I bet there are. I haven't got that far yet. I'm there.
Mate, honestly, there's tons in here. I throw Porter under a bus massively in this one.
That makes it back for his book.
No, yeah, little fucker. No, there's the whole, how we get the whole guest thing wrong. And how we get the tent is like our Spinal Tap Stonehenge, you know. So I've covered everything there about how we screw up.
Who had the idea to do everything the opposite way?
How do you mean the opposite way?
Well, it's not in a building, it's in a tent. It's not standing up, everybody's sitting down.
Right, there's chapters in there because they are the funniest. The funniest parts of the Grand Tour are getting going because we're against the clock, we're in legal hell because Amazon are clearly expecting it to be as close as Top Gear as possible, but legally not Top Gear. So then you get a bank of lawyers surrounding whatever you do. So the tent is a separate thing. I'll come to that. But you get things like, can James, and we had lawyers at certain points going, can James say, oh, cock? Because he said it on Top Gear. They go, is that a trademark thing from Top Gear, a format point? Or is that something James himself would say? And we're like, are we really having this fucking conversation, £400 an hour, man? You know? And it got its worst point was a lawyer went, I've just been thinking, when you're abroad on your big foreign exotic journeys, you often stop and admire the view, taking the scenery. And we were like, yeah, like people do.
Have a fag, yeah.
Like people do. And he was like, I was wondering if that's a format point. That's something you do on Top Gear. And we're like, well, what would you like to do? Would you like to stand in front of the sort of deserts in Namibia and go, well, this is shit? What do you expect? And then at that point, even the lawyers go, all right, sorry, you know. But it got down to things like when the guest comes on, they walk through the crowd. In the Top Gear studio, we're in the round. So they would go, right, in the tent, you've got to be at one end. Jeremy can't handwrite a time and stick it on the board. It's got to come up electronically. Those were the sort of legal things that you couldn't copy.
Was there so many of that at any given point that you thought, oh, fuck this? Like, was there a day where you thought...
No, they got funny. I mean, like I say, the lowest point is, you know, can you admire the view or can James say, oh, cock? But I think because our whole world is, you know, we built 2 shows based on things going wrong. You know, a good day, a bad day for us is when the car doesn't break down, you know. So because we built so much of our career on things going wrong, we would just go, right, these are pub anecdotes. At least I can go to the pub tonight and go, guess what a lawyer said to me today? We'll get a laugh out of it. And then the tent was, oh, Jesus, I killed Jeremy. Because they were like, Amazon going, okay, we need a kind of new format. Sort of, how's it going to look, but not a new format, but a new look. So we didn't have the name Grand Tour yet. or we did, I can't remember. It was wandering around our brains. And then Jeremy one day went, hey, I've had an idea. I was watching True Detective the other night, and he went, there's this episode where there's a sort of religious gathering, and they're in this tent. It's like a big sort of canvas job. It's got poles, and there's like a congregation in there. It looks really like a piece of piss to put up. And we could do that. We'll put up something like that, and we'll travel around with it. We'll go around the world with it if we want. And we'll just put up our studio temporary every week. So great idea, and it fits with Grand Touring, and it's very different to Top Gear. We're not a base anymore. We've got a mobile base. And where it gets kind of comedic or tragic and Spinal Tap-ish is Jeremy goes, the director and everybody else goes, okay, right, this tent has got to have like double floor. The floor's got to be perfectly level so the cameras go across it. Soundproofing, it's got to be double skinned. The window behind you, it can't just be any sort of polythene shit you get out of millets. It's got to be like made out of gold or whatever for the sun and this sort of stuff. And then like, if we're going to do the schedule, we need to build 2 of them. And the teams that are doing the mobile studio, they need their own tent, so they've got to be tacked on. So the bill is rising and rising.
Because at the start, you would move the tent around, wouldn't you, to the different places?
But we did the rock band thing. Like big rock bands have 2 stages, replicas, so they can keep the tour moving, and it's more cost effective to have 2 stages. It would take too long to move it and put it up if we were recording. So we had to buy 2. And the bills just keep going up and up. And Jeremy he sort of goes, I think I was saying in there, he's got this like dustpan and brush of impatience in his head. So if you start going, no, you see, you can't, it's not just like in True Detective, you can't do that. And he's like, yes, it can't. How hard can it be? I mean, like some people in a tent. I mean, tents are tents. Weddings are in tents and everybody can hear each other. And so on and so he'd always find a reason and go, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And then that thing grew and grew and grew. And we thought, shit, we can afford to spend 2 million on this. And then towards the end, like the cost, we thought, oh, fuck, it's going to be like nearly 3 million we spent on this tent, moving it around. And I'm looking at the producer who's in charge of it. I'm like, we can do this for 2 million. He's like, yeah. And I'm thinking, you lying prick. You know? But we're all buying into the lie because we've got to get going and we've only got a year, to have everything ready. So then the bill finally comes in. It's 5 million, right? At which point we go, right, we're not going abroad anymore. We're going to put the tent in one place. So yes, those are like the accidents are all in there. And Porter with the guest thing. There's a good chapter about what went wrong.
You talk about earlier on some of that insecurity in your 20s.
Yeah.
In the Top Gear. Even with all the success of that show, you'd have had part of your pie chart of confidence now you felt before the Grand Tour began would have been, we're going to be, I'm imagining we're going to be fine because we've got this huge audience and people are excited and anticipated. But the evening of the first launch of the show when it actually goes live, what did you feel like then?
Which
and
one?
Richard,
Grand
James
Tour?
and Jeremy, yeah. Were you shitting yourself?
Let me go back. Let me try and think. Because it drops. You know what I mean? It just drops. It doesn't, there's not that moment, 8 p.m. Sunday night where in terrestrial, where there's a communal thing. With Top Gear, we imagine families like going, right, do your homework or you're not watching Top Gear. Top Gear, then bed. And you think there's a ritual going on around the country that we're all part of. Whereas when something drops, it's a really like cold feeling because it's like the show's now available. You're like, oh, was that it? And you can look for your reviews. You can look for now things like forums are up and running fully. You look for those. But yeah, it wasn't a mega feeling. It wasn't a mega feeling because it's not. You don't get the instant gratification afterwards, and you think, is this going to be as good as what we did? I'd say the other thing that's important as well. By the time we're doing the Grand Tour, we're professional. We know what we're doing. We've got an armory full of weapons that we can call on. That we've got big races, builds, specials. We know what we're doing. But with Top Gear, we're discovering it all as we go along. So we're amazing ourselves. We're full of surprises when we do something and we're like, yay, we did this and we thought of that. And shit, cheap cars work. You know, cheap cars are better than expensive cars for films. You find it out on the hoof. You're excited. But we know all this by the time we're starting to make the Grand Tour.
Do you think from a viewer perspective, people expect the Grand Tour to be good because they've discovered how much they loved Top Gear over the years?
Yes, and they came in their droves and they loved that first step. They hated the second ep, which was us fucking around in Jordan, doing our version of Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, that Tom Cruise film where he gets killed and then he comes back again. We did something similar for our second show, and it's the most hated show we've ever made of anything. Because people are like, what are you doing, you pricks? This is like, you're not comedians. You're not actors. We really loved it, still do. But you're juggling, you're finding your feet. But we know we're in for the long run. We're in for 3 years, so we know we're going to get it right.
I want to just go back to this word a second. Because one of the best days of my life, as you could imagine, being a Top Gear fan, I've watched it my whole life. And suddenly, through driving around this van and meeting a lot of people that seem to like me, I get invited to drive one of the original Suzuki Lianas head to head against another YouTuber, being instructed by what was the ex-Stig, Ben Collins. And I remember with my friend Freddie Tavares, who's a car rebuilder from America, he's rebuilding a P1 at the minute, with Frank Stevenson. And there was this moment where we looked at each other and went, on the fucking Top Gear track. And we went over.
But that's because you were 9 as well.
You would have just had your old porter cabins and there was still fag butts on the floor. And
I was down there actually a few weeks ago.
And we tore off some bit of the porter cabin and split it between two of us. We went back and like, that to us is like hallowed ground at Twickenham.
Oh, that is to us too. Yes.
And that's why I think it's really important that this word's on the front of the book, magic, because without that word, without that feeling of magic, we wouldn't have bothered going and ripping off a piece of rotten wood.
Because you thought the magic was that show belonged to everybody. It got under your skin.
Do you think that the new version of that magic for you is actually the farm?
Yes.
Rather than the Grand Tour?
Yes, 100%.
Would you ever have expected that to be the magic?
No, we never knew the farm was going to be anything. Well, and Jeremy would give it his best shot. I say it's Jeremy's show. Give it his best shot. I remember the reason the farm came about is when Amazon wanted us to re-sign after the original 3 years were up, we weren't sure we should carry on. We were like, okay, now's the time to stop. We've done another 36 shows. We're going to go shit at some point. So let's get ahead of it and not be shit and just stop. And Amazon won't want us anyway. And it turns out they did want us because we were doing well for them. And then we were like, no, we're not going to do it. And then the bastards went, okay, which is the way to get 4 insecure people, is to go, all right, here's some more money to make more Top Gear Grand Tours, but you each get a solo show. Now imagine you're a 70s band where it's full of egos, like Deep Purple or something like that, and the keyboard player suddenly got his solo album deal. You know, the record company's only interested in the lead singer and the lead guitarist, but suddenly the bass player, the keyboard player, everybody's got their own solo thing. We all got our own solo project deal with Amazon. And they said to Jeremy, what would you like to do? He goes, I'm thinking about life on my farm. And if I had a quid for every Amazon executive went, can you talk him out of that, please? Like, because they thought, that how can that be interesting in any way? So I rang him. I went, are you feeling the knives in your back today? And he's like, what? And I was like, I'm just killing myself here. The people trying to talk me out, get you to talk you out doing this. And he was like, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. He didn't get cross at all. He was like, I'm crapping myself that this is going to be any good. So he's like, and we were like, what we're worried about? And I was like, I know you'll do your best, but what if it's boring? And that's what I'm worried about. It's going to be boring. So it's starting like Top Gear in that you've got no expectations of it. That's a similarity. Whereas with the Grand Tour, there are expectations. You're starting with nothing, which is like Top Gear. And then happy accidents occur, which is like Top Gear. The biggest happy accident is the cast. Because nobody knew that Gerald would be Gerald, that Charlie would be Charlie, and Caleb would be Caleb, and Lisa would be Lisa. Or even Alan the builder would be the perfect builder. Nobody knew that would happen. His two dogs are fucking mental, you know. And you're like, they're perfect TV dogs because they won't do anything he says. But you're like, he could have got, if he'd have bought two dogs and they were obedient, they just wouldn't be on the screen, you know.
Well, that show inspired me so much that
thank you.
I only live down the road from there, and I decided to go to battle with the planners, the planners next door, about building a fishery with a little lodge on the side of it. And I never intended to make a YouTube version of Clarkson's Farm, for example. But what ended up happening is I got so angry at the planners, I decided to film it. And suddenly the people that shone through on my YouTube series were behind the camera today. We have Louis, who was known as Child Labour Services.
Yeah.
We had Mr. Vincent.
Actually 8, isn't it? He's actually making trainers while he's
actually fast. He's a fast child racing services now.
Right.
But we had Vincent James Carpentry, who did all the work in the building.
Yeah.
We had Jack the Reed Man, and we had my mum. And it went nuts on YouTube. And
because you had this little gang.
But everybody was asking for people like my mum, who now gets a selfie in Tesco's. My mum, like 7-year-old mum, doesn't even know what YouTube is. Yeah. Now asks a selfie in Tesco. And it sounds like that when it was that break off, because you get to do what you never really thought you would, but there's magic in it.
No, and none of them really care about it either. I don't think your mum cares that she's on telly.
No.
So that makes her perfect for telly.
She thinks that's a podcast.
Who was that writer? It was a writer. It was either Hawthorne or Whitmer. We're going clever now. Big American writer, literary giant. And he came out with this phrase, which was any man, is like the 1800s, any man who professes a desire to run for president should automatically be excluded from running for president. The logic being, you should be pressed into service to do it. You don't go ego-driven. And I think it's the same with TV a lot of the time. Your mum doesn't want to be there, so she's fine. She's not interested in the cameras. Gerald's not interested. Charlie never watches himself. You go, fucking hell, Charlie, you were good in giving Jeremy what for the other week in the office. He goes, I didn't see that. I've not watched it. And they're perfect for telly in that way.
When you sit at home with a drink in hand, finished writing all of this.
Yeah.
It's now here in physical form.
Yeah.
Put all the stories in there.
Yeah.
Is there still stuff that you'd love to go out, accomplish, do, find? Is there still more to give?
I'm very jealous when I watch something like Senna or Searching for Sugar Man, those 2-hour docs that are just has taken somebody 2 years to make, and they make one thing.
It's perfect.
And I can do it, and I could be on my own. The reason I write in the book was I was on my own, because everything I do is collaborative. And we're also on a timetable, 10 Top Gears, 12 Grand Tours, la, la, la. There's a pressure, there's a thing you're locked into. And I always used to look at those people doing like a Senna documentary and go, fuck, wish I could do that. Just like take 2 years, you make one thing and you noodle over everything. I really would like to do that.
Well, I told you be out in this van just over an hour in.
Mate,
and we've managed to cover pretty much everything.
That's really cool. So what's in there?
What I've done
my check
is I've put
massive.
Is this what it looks like from Amazon?
I really wanted cash, so I don't have to tell anybody. Yeah.
If this isn't possible inside at all, and I doubt it is, 99% of me is convinced this is not possible.
Okay.
But there's a 1% of me, like when you decided to do Clarkson's Farm and it worked and it went through, that when we should do this, we should try this. And this is me going, I need to try this.
Is this your way of saying it's something you want?
So it is something I want.
This is like Jim will fix it, but without any.
Please read out, just like the early days of Top Gear, the letter to the audience.
Andy, congrats, you are nearly through the podcast and can go home. ! Really? This challenge could be the hardest you have had in an envelope yet! ! Getting a bit much for those. The challenge is to convince Jeremy Clarkson to allow Road to Success to pull up at the pub, pour a crisp, that's a good word for him, pint of Hawkston, and have a chat with us for 1 hour, with all proceeds going to a charity of his choice. I don't fancy your chances.
Neither do I. However, my little street food business, Gert Wings, trades happily at Hawkston on Bourton on the Water, right with his face above our truck.
Oh, yeah?
The
Gert Wings is there.
Gert Wings comes there, my street food business.
Right.
With a lot of our
so
produce.
So hang on, where are you? Near the brewery or whatever?
Yeah, the brewery in Bourton on the Water.
Right.
Where there's a tent there, a smaller tent than the one at his pub. We actually pull up there and we trade food. So they do the beers, they do all the drinks, and we do Gert Wings, wings and strips.
I'll ask him.
And the project, when he did those trout into his lake, into his pond, on the episode, that was the moment that convinced me to dig a 1 acre pond in the field behind my mum's house. Because when my dad died, I wanted to do something for my mum that got her happy again. And without that moment of television, I wouldn't have done the most fulfilling thing of my life, and also had this van to have you opposite. So if I don't do the 1%, and not just for me,
no, you've got to ask,
but for the hundreds of thousands of people that may have listened to this, I had to ask. So
you have to ask.
You guys will see in the future if that ever pops along. I'm glad I did that. Andy,
I will ask.
Like your book, this episode has been about you. This episode has been about how you got to where you are today, and I thank you so much for giving me just over an hour.
It's been a real pleasure.
In my van in the centre of London somewhere.
No, and I'll tell you what as well, I've really loved the way that we talked about, which I think is a sort of strand of way, you're interested in how people get somewhere. And I didn't really expect we'd be doing much of that, and it's a really interesting thing to do. So thank you for that too. I've had a great time.
Well, if they want to grab your book, I will leave all the links to it in the description and the pinned comment in this video. Why the hell?
I've read this and it's brilliant.
Why the hell wouldn't you? And Christmas is coming up. So guys, please can you show some support to Andy, and also can you show some support for hitting the subscribe button?
Hang on, we're getting like children in need now. It's like
please can you show some love, Andy, and do something that you enjoy in your family. Just go buy the fucking book.
Yeah.
Andy,
He'll
thank you.
He'll have no heating this Christmas.
Thank you.
Please.